Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about one, what causes domestic violence in the first place, and two, the different stages, but also the different stages not from the victim standpoint but from the perpetrator standpoint. So we all know the gaslighting, we all know the love bombing. Those are the two main stages, and then we have the actual abuse stage. We all have the main stages, but a lot of times when they're described from the victim or the person who is experiencing the abuse, their standpoint, their feelings, how it looks from their side of the coin, how it feels from their side of the situation. In this video, I want to really dig in and explore these different stages from the person who is doing the abuse, from their point of view. So stay tuned, let's get into it. Alright, so first thing that we're going to talk about is why domestic violence even happens in the first place. And I'm going to sum it up real quick for you. There are a lot of different reasons, but at the root, you guys know I like to talk about the core. I like to get right down to the nitty gritty. So the nitty gritty of it all is that we ignore the signs that a person is emotionally and mentally unstable from the beginning. There are always signs in the beginning that tell us that a person is not stable enough within their mind and their emotions to deal with another person, to be in a relationship, to function healthily, to function in a healthy way in a relationship. And there's always signs in the beginning, but we ignore them. Why do we ignore them? We could see the potential in that person. We might want to help them. And that's why a lot of times there's plenty of information out there about how narcissists attract empaths. They attract empaths because we see the potential in them and we want to help them. But 9 times out of 10, we're attracting that person because a part of whatever they're dealing with is also something that we resonate with. But because we see it as a one versus the other, narcissist versus empath, we don't realize that they're one and the same. And this person came into our existence, we attracted them not because we're better or we needed to help them, but because we needed to help each other. And I'll link the talk about narcissists versus empaths to give you guys a little bit more context for what I'm talking about with that. So let's get back into what we're talking about though. So so that's one reason why you might overlook the red flags. Another reason, you love them. You've gotten to the point where maybe you guys had a whole friendship, and during the friendship, you guys were just friends, so there was really no need for a lot of red flags to pop up because it was a very casual thing. You guys, you supported each other in a lot of different kind of ways, and you guys healed together, and through that you built a love for them. And then all of these behaviors they just came out of nowhere. But again, it really didn't come out of nowhere because it was there from the beginning, but because you resonated with them, you didn't realize that they were actually red flags, that they were actual evidences of mental or emotional instability. But because you yourself were mentally or emotionally unstable at the time that you met the person, you didn't pick up on it because you guys were resonating on the same frequency. And then let's say maybe you healed a little bit faster than they did. And then that's when, the issues start coming about and things really start coming to the forefront. Alright, so another reason we overlook the red flags is because we think we can change them. We see everything that's going on, and we think that, if I stay with this person, I help them, and I, help them to feel better, and I do all these different things, maybe they'll change later. it's true, they will, but they're gonna abuse you in the process. And I just don't think it's worth it to allow yourself to be abused for the sake of somebody else's healing. There are other ways to help them without hurting yourself in the process. And the last reason I threw this in here, because I had a client that, she just had to see how things would play out. Like, she knew what it was from the beginning, and she really didn't have any attachments to the person, to changing them or to any of the other stuff. She just wanted to see, she just wanted to be a witness to the process. And that's not a bad perspective to look at it from, but at the same time, there are strict boundaries that need to be in place if you're going to take that position. If you're going to stay with somebody who you know is mentally unstable, and you're making the decision to stay with them anyway, fully understanding that you're not there to change them, that you're just there to be a support through that. There are strict boundaries that you need to have in place in order to be able to do that successfully. And one of the number one boundaries is do not engage with that person sexually. Keep them in the friend zone. Establish strict boundaries. There is no moving in together. There's no intertwining our lives as if we were in a relationship. I'm treating you as strictly a platonic friend. That is the only way that can be safe for you. Once you start having sex with a person, or once you start having certain conversations with them about, conversations that only people who are pursuing a romantic relationship should be having, then that's where the lines get blurred, and that's where you put yourself in a dangerous situation. Okay, so we talked about the reasons why people ignore the signs. Let's talk about some of the signs. So one of the main signs is he asks you your body count, or she asks you how many people you've had sex with. The reason this is a red flag is because, like I described in a video titled "What to Do if they ask you, how you respond if they ask you what your body count is or how many people you've had sex with, how you're supposed to react to that." So if you want a little bit more in-depth information about it, you can watch that video, but we're just gonna tap on it a little bit. So basically that question comes from an insecure place. Only unstable people will ask that question. A person who is healthy, a person who understands life, and who sees people as valuable not by what they've done or not by what they have but just by who they are. If you're looking at a person just for who they are, you're not going to ask them that personal question, because it's not going to be a thing for you. The reason why people ask that question is because it's a trigger. It was an issue before in other situations, and so it was an issue before in other situations, and so they don't want it to become an issue again, so they're asking you that. That means that they're not fully healed from whatever situation brought that about. They're not fully healed, they're not fully secure within themselves, and so they'll never view you as, or respect you or honor you as being fully secure. And if you appear to be more secure than them, it's going to lead to violence. It's going to lead to abuse later on. So let's talk about some more of the red flags. He's too nice, or she's too nice in the beginning. We all know what too nice is. And this is also known as the love bombing phase. So they're too nice. However, too nice is described by you. We all know what that feels like. He or she questions you in an accusatory way. Like, let's say you're on a date or you're just hanging out and they ask you all these questions, but it's not it doesn't feel like it's in a I'm just curious about you, and I want to get to know you. Like, we all know the difference between that type of vibe of like, we're just having a conversation versus I'm drilling questions at you, and, and you feel like you're being judged by the questions that are being asked. There's a difference between the two, and we all feel the difference. So if they're asking you questions in an accusatory or judgmental way, and you just feel a certain negative vibe about the whole conversation, that's a red flag. He judges you. A perfect example of this is a friend of mine was dating this guy, and they had gotten to the point where they were intimate, and she left her underwear over his house. And when she came back over like another day, he had mentioned to her that she had a healthy pH, and he's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, I can tell you have like, he said something like, I can tell you have a healthy pH or something like that. And she was like, okay, what do you, like, she took it as like, she took it in a negative way, even though it was a compliment, because underneath it is judgment. This man actually smelled her underwear to see what kind of pH she had. Like, there's so many violations within that. And then when she confronted him about it and they had a conversation, he was like, it's a compliment. You should be happy that I complimented you or whatever, because there are a lot of women who don't have healthy pH and whatever. And it's like, okay, but there are other ways. Like, that was judgment. Like, how would you have responded if the underwear didn't smell good, or there was something else going on, or there was a different outcome to what you did? How would you respond then? And how does that benefit either of us? How does that response benefit either of us? So anyway, he judges you. He makes assumptions. This kind of goes into judgments too, but he makes assumptions, and about you, about other people, about where you've been, about what you're doing. The list can go on. It can be shown in a lot of different ways, but he makes assumptions, or she. I'm saying he a lot because that's what I identify with, but it can also apply to she. There are a lot of women out there who do these same things. Narcissism is not unique to just men. It is also women. Alright, and the last one, he or she tries to control you. They go through your phone. They tell you who you can and can't hang out with. They tell you what you can and can't eat. They tell you what you can and can't wear. However, control can appear in a lot of different ways, right? So those are the red flags. So we've covered reasons why red flags are ignored and the actual red flags. So let's say that one, two, three, four, however many of the red flags are present within this person, and you still decide to move forward with them because of one of the reasons that we mentioned before. What's going to happen is these things are going to build up, and you're going to start standing up for yourself in various ways, and it's going to trigger the other person and cause them to lash out physically and verbally. So it's a gradual process. You might be able to laugh off a judgment or an assumption that was made, or something that offended you that person said. You might be able to laugh it off 10 times, but the 11th time, you're going to be like, okay, look, eventually, you could be the nicest person, the most understanding person, the most compassionate person. Eventually, you're going to get to the point of where you're going to be like, look, XYZ, you're gonna start standing up for yourself. You're gonna start asserting your power. You're gonna start setting boundaries. And because these were not set from the beginning, this person's gonna look at it like, or maybe they were set from the beginning and they're not respecting it, and you didn't walk away because, again, like we mentioned in the previous video, when a person does not respect your boundaries, that is a clear sign to walk away from them completely. There was no friendship after that, because even friends have to respect boundaries. Healthy friendships respect boundaries. It becomes even more important for them to respect your boundaries when you're dealing with them on a romantic level, because now you guys could be potentially living together. You're having sex with them. You could be potentially having a child or children with them. You're merging a lot of different areas of your life with this person. If they can't do something as simple as respect your boundaries, it is not okay to continue to engage with them and then expect for that to be a positive situation. Okay, so eventually, these things, they start to build up and build up and build up, especially with women. Women tend to hold things inside and then just blow up and explode. Introverts, or loners, however you want to describe it, empaths. We tend to hold things inside. We hold a lot of other people's emotions, a lot of our emotions. We hold a lot of things inside, and then we just get to the point where we're just like, ah! And that is the worst thing to happen when you're dealing with somebody who's mentally unstable, because they're not going to react to you in the way that somebody who is stable would react. Somebody who's stable would say, oh, I'm sorry, there must have been a lot going on. Like, they're gonna comfort you and console you when you explode. But somebody who's already unstable is going to jump right into a reactionary state, and they're going to react in a way that is violent, because it's a trigger for them. When people lash out, it's a trigger, and the trigger says to them, I need to protect myself. This person's trying to hurt me. Regardless of how much love they have for you, regardless of how they know who you are, that you would never hurt them, whatever, in that moment, it's nothing but a reaction. Right? So, again, this is why it is so important that we don't ignore certain things, because small things, and it might seem like something small. Oh, he makes little comments here and there. He whatever, but I know it's because of XYZ, and we make excuses, and it seems small, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and grows to the point where it becomes a dangerous situation. Okay, so let's talk about the different stages now, and how they look from that person's point of view, not from the victim or the person who's experiencing, but the person who's doing it. Okay, so let's start with love bombing. People will love bomb you to feel a need to be wanted, in hopes that if they do certain things for you or treat you a certain kind of way, that you will love them. You'll treat them that kind of way. So they treat you in ways that they want to be treated. And that's a way, that makes sense, right? I know we've all at some point heard that before. Treat other people how you want to be treated. Yes. But without the expectation that they're going to reciprocate that. When we start attaching an expectation to it, like I'm going to do this so that they can do it, so that they can do it back. Like, I'm going to give them a massage so I can get a massage. Or I'm going to buy them things so that they can buy me things. Or I'm going to be there for them so that they can be there for me. Whatever it is whatever need it is that was not filled within them at some point in their life, they're going to feel it filled within you, in hopes that you'll fill it for them, in hopes that you'll reciprocate that. And yeah, that's what naturally happens in a relationship. But when you feel so deprived of it, you start becoming desperate for it. So it's like if it's not coming fast enough or it's not coming in the way that you expect it to come, then it's a problem. And we've all experienced that in one form or another. So that's where the love bombing comes from that person's point of view. They're doing it because some part of them is empty and they're looking for you to fill it. So let's say that they're doing all of that and you too have wounds that need to be filled. And so they're love bombing and they're filling you up, but because you're wounded as well, you're not going to reciprocate. And so they're gonna not be filled, and then it escalates to the gaslighting phase, which happens when they're realizing that you aren't behaving in a way that they think you should behave. You're not reciprocating their love, you're not giving back to them, and it's because you can't. You're empty as well. Or it could be that you're empty as well, or it could be that you're holding back from filling them because you're holding on to resentment of all the things that they did to you in the beginning, like all of the red flags that you overlooked. Like maybe they judge you a lot, maybe they make assumptions a lot, maybe they try to control you, and you've overlooked all of that and you're still pursuing a relationship, but in the back of your mind you're still holding on to resentment for all of those things. And so you know that you should be pouring into them with love, and you have it to pour into them, and you're well aware of the situation, but you're purposely withholding that love from them in order to punish them for the things that they did to you before. Either way, it's a toxic situation, and it leads to gaslighting. So now they're saying, now this is the point at which they start standing up for themselves, and they're like, well, I did all this stuff for you, and you're not reciprocating, so now I'm going to try to make you feel bad for not doing it. And it seems like it's coming from a vindictive place, and it could be coming still from a vindictive place, but at the root of it all, it's still the core need that was trying to be accomplished at the beginning, which is love. They're still trying to find love, but now they're going from, okay, well, me giving them love and them reciprocating, it didn't work. So now I'm going to see if guilting them into loving me or shaming them into loving me is going to work. And so that's the gaslighting phase. That's the guilt and the shame and the ridicule and, trying to make you feel bad and whatever else. That's where all that comes from, because they're hoping that they can convince you to love them by doing all of those things. And then, but of course it works in the opposite way, because nobody wants to be told that they're fat randomly out of nowhere. Nobody wants to, be told that they're ugly or they're worthless, or however else people gaslight people, right? These are all the comments that come out when you're being gaslit. You're good for nothing, you're selfish, you're whatever. All of these things to create hurt within the person. And it's really, from their point of view, they're just trying to get you to love them. But from your point of view, the one who's receiving all of this gaslighting, all of these negative comments, it just makes you want to back away from them even more. But you don't back away from them. You still stay in the situation, and you convince yourself that you're still trying to work through it. You love them, you want to stay, you want to still work through it, but that resentment that you haven't dealt with is now being compacted even more. And then we get to the isolation phase, and the isolation phase is kind of intertwined with the gaslighting, because now they're desperate. They're in a completely desperate situation. They're trying to figure out, okay, well, reciprocate, like me doing for them didn't work. Okay, me shaming them and guilting them didn't work. Maybe it's somebody else that is getting their attention. Maybe if I deprive them from all of the other sources of love within their life, maybe there'll be nobody else for them to love, so they'll have to pour that love into me. So that's where the isolation comes in, and they say, oh, let's move to this isolated place where there's nobody all the way from your family, or, isolation happens in a lot of different kind of ways. But the reason that it happens is because it's their last ditch effort to get the love that they wanted from the beginning. This is all about getting love and acceptance and compassion. That's really what a narcissist wants at the end of the day. And so, and they go through all of these insidious ways of getting it, but at the end of the day, all they need to do is sit down and admit to themselves that they need love. And two, okay, so then how do I get it? I need to start loving myself first. And so that's really the lesson for the narcissist, learning self-love. Because you can pour into somebody else as much as you want, it's not going to force them to love you. They can make a decision to if they at some point, but at the end of the day, nothing will sustain you better, longer, deeper than self-love. Because now, once you love yourself, a person can come and go, and you're fine. They can come, go, they can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, and it doesn't affect you as deeply because you're not dependent on them for the love. So when they go off and they take the love with them, you're fine still because you have that love within yourself. So the lesson for the empath and the narcissist is self-love. And the only difference between the two is that an empath chooses they choose one end of the spectrum. They're both avoiding self-love, but the empath chooses to pour into a person, pour everything, their whole soul, everything into a person. And then the narcissist decides they're not pouring anything into a person. Like, everybody needs to get away from me. They've taken the isolation method. The isolation method and the victim mentality. Oh, well, I tried and nobody wants to love me, and so I'm just gonna isolate myself and push everybody away, but at the same time, I need people, and all of this kind of stuff. That's the narcissist. And then the empath is, oh, I love everybody, and I have everything to give, and I want to help everybody, and I want to give everybody everything, and I feel everybody's emotions so deeply, and blah, 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 blah. And both of them are needed. But when we come to the middle is self-love. When we get to that point, we learn how to integrate both of those sides, and that's why there's no such thing as one or the other. We're both experiencing both at the same time until we get to that happy medium where we have accomplished self-love and balance and peace. Okay, so went off on a little tangent there, but it was necessary. So isolation happens, and then so they've tried all of these different methods, and they're still not getting the love that they want from you. So now it becomes abuse. This is the final straw. They've made all the attempts to get the love that they're searching for, and you refuse to give it to them. So now they're saying, now I'm going to beat it out of you. Now I'm going to force it out of you. Now I'm going to make you love me because I need it so badly, and you're not giving it to me. Who do you think you are? I'm worthy of love. I'm the best thing that you've ever had in your whole entire life. How could you not want to love me? I'm going to punish you. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to show you. That's what happens when it gets to that point, because they're looking at it as like you are purposely not wanting to love them, as if something is wrong with them, but you're not loving them because of all of the foolishness they did to you, all of the love bombing, all of the gaslighting. That's why you're not showing them love, and because you don't have it within yourself, because you're not practicing self-love within yourself. And so I hope this made sense for you guys. I hope you got something out of it. That's the main point. That's the main objective. Even if you got one thing out of it, I'm happy. And so that's really what sums it up. And again, I want to reiterate that this journey is really about you. And people are going to keep coming into your life and abusing you until you realize that the journey is about self-love, and you cannot get the love from other people that you're wanting and desiring until you are able to give it to yourself. People don't want to and will not give you something that you are not willing to give to yourself. You don't know yourself. You don't love yourself. You can't expect somebody else to love you. Like RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Amen. Amen. All right. So, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got something from it again. And until next time, be well.